This week's story is a little bit different. Instead of sharing a storybook with you, I'm going to share the story of a special person. Since this week's big question is all about people in history changing the world, we are thinking about those people who made an impact and changed the way that we live today. Maybe some of you celebrated VE Day last week. This was a special day when the people of Britain celebrated the end of World War II. Lots of people would have gathered at the time for street parties to dance, sing and cheer. They were so pleased that the war was finally over. This got me thinking about all the people who have served in the wars in the past. They made a great sacrifice so that we could live in freedom and peace today. I would like to tell you about someone special in my family who I believe made an impact in the lives of the people that she met, and that her service in the war has changed the way that we live today. This lady is my great aunt Flora. Flora was my Granny Pike's younger sister and the middle child of 3. In this picture, she is on the left with the curly hair. Their story starts in Gaya in India, where my granny and Flora lived for the first part of their lives. Their father was working as a guard in the East India Railway Company, and my granny always spoke of exotic India stories and a grand house she lived in as a child. Flora was born in 1917, and they returned to Scotland shortly after this, and their home was in Kelso. My granny also had a younger brother called Donald. This was the Scott family. When Flora was a young woman, just in her early 20s, World War II broke out, and she decided to become a nurse. Hospitals were very busy with wounded soldiers, and nurses and doctors just couldn't cope with the amount of people on their own. They had to ask for women to sign up to become auxiliary nurses, and they were trained in how to look after people and make them comfortable. They would need to change beds, help people stay clean and healthy, give medicine, and anything else that needed doing. Flora decided that this was the route she would go. Many big country houses and hotels during World War II needed to close their doors and be taken over by the government to make more hospitals. So a sick soldier could be lying in a hospital bed in a lord's dining room with chandeliers on the ceilings and huge paintings on the walls. Flora worked in 2 of these hospitals during her time as a nurse: Monteviot House, which is near Jedburgh, and Gleneagles Hotel in between Perth and Stirling. During this time, she kept a small autograph book as a keepsake of the patients she nursed. Soldiers would draw her pictures and write her poems. I am very lucky that my Granny Pike left this book to me, and I can share it with you now. Some of the soldiers were very talented, and they drew sketches and watercolours. This kept the soldiers busy while they were recovering in hospital, and it was a way of thanking Flora for her kindness and care. This patient draws a nurse reaching out with a kind smile and friendly nature. He talks about fellowship, which is when someone is kind towards others and friendships are made. Others drew their regiment badges or symbols. Lots of the soldiers were Polish and recovering in hospitals before going back to war to fight against Germany. One patient wrote, "I am leaving Monteviot Hospital. You will remain in my memory as a true friend," from the heart of a Polish soldier. Another says, "I have been between the Scottish people. I know your hearts. I shall never forget them." One of my favourite pages in the book is this poem written by an army soldier called G. Turnbull about Flora and another nurse on the ward. It is called "Two of the Best." two of the best. When darkness falls and shadows grow, around the ward 2 nurses go. They are so tender and polite as they come in to say good night. And in the night, if you should wake with sore head or tummy ache, just cry out in your pain and they'll come back to you again. So go to bed and all sleep tight, for they all watch over you through the night. But at 6, right on the dot, you will be wakened by Nurse Scott. Then Nurse Davidson will say, "Get up, lads, it's break of day." With this verse I now will end, for in these two you have a friend. During the lead-up to World War II in Britain, the British Red Cross started to prepare its volunteers for the possibility of gas and air raid attacks. In England, for much of the war, it was an offence to not have your gas mask with you, and people like Flora, who served the public, would need to be trained in anti-gas procedures in case of an attack. As you can see, this medal is awarded for anti-gas training and is pictured along with other badges and pins that Flora would have worn with her uniform. Later, Flora decided to join the Ladies' RAF in November 1941, which was called the Women's Auxiliary Air Force, or the WAAF for short. You can see there is a good luck message in her keepsake book from her younger brother Donald, wishing her good luck before she leaves. When she joined the WAAF, she went on a course to learn all about radio location work, and in 1942 was posted in England. While she was there, she met her husband and they got married in 1942. Her husband was sent to fight in India in 1944, and sadly while he was away, Flora died in the war, aged 27. But she is still remembered today by my family, and she appears on the Kelso War Memorial next to the Abbey, so she is remembered every day as people pass by. She was also awarded a special war grave in Kelso Cemetery, and she rests in peace in the town that she loved. Flora was awarded 2 medals for her time in service. The blue, red and white War Medal, which stood for the colours of the Union Jack, was awarded to people who served full time for at least 28 days during the war. The lion standing on the dragon and eagle creature is to signify victory over the enemies. The second was the Defence Medal. The flame-coloured orange centre and the green bands mean enemy attacks on Britain's green and pleasant lands, while the narrow black band represents the blackouts against the air raid attacks. I believe that through her war jobs, especially her kind and gentle character shown towards the ill and injured soldiers she nursed, that Flora really did make a difference in the world. Her friends, family and her husband loved her dearly, and she was greatly missed when she died. However, everyone was so proud of all that she had done in her life and how much she touched the lives of others when they were far from their homes and loved ones and at war. Even small acts of kindness and generosity can change the world into a happier and more loving place. I hope, Edensiders, that you enjoyed this little bit of my family tree and that you could maybe spare a wee thought, a hello or a wave for Flora the next time you pass the War Memorial in Kelso. I know that it would mean so much to my granny, and she would have loved to have thought that her little sister's story was remembered by the future generations of Kelso. We are asking you this week to research someone significant, possibly in history, or someone in your family who you believe has made or is making an impact in the world around them. Please do share your findings with us on Facebook or by emailing the school, as we will be so interested to hear about these incredible people. please remember the actions of people like Florence Nightingale and Flora Scott and other people who you may know in history or in your family. Remember these actions and remember that you can also make a difference. Be kind, stay safe, and look after one another.